Welcome everybody. My name is Mr. Ilsley and I'm Head of Computer and Online Safety at Queggs in Ashbourne. I've been delivering online safety training for over 10 years now, although probably my best qualification for doing these talks is I've got two daughters who are now aged 19 and 20. Not that that makes me an expert, but more likely I've learned the hard way about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. This is our 10th online safety session for parents, and I have to say I never expected our 10th one to be conducted in a way such as this. I'm sure you'll all be aware that things have been a little bit different over the last 12 months. We've all adjusted, and in many cases are still adjusting to online learning and the challenges that it brings us every day. Although I've titled this an online safety update, in reality there's a rapid blurring of the lines between the off and online world for our young people. Whereas people of my age went online, today young people live online and don't even consider the possibility of not being connected. If you want to test that theory, by the way, try booking a holiday somewhere that's not got any Wi-Fi. You'll soon see. For many, the online world can be a scary place. Nobody's saying you need to be an expert, though. I've been doing the online safety for over a decade, and I'm certainly still no expert. I'm still learning, and every day brings new challenges. But the willingness to engage and have a conversation with your children about their online activities goes a very, very long way. So here are some of the things I'm going to talk about in today's session. We're going to have a summary of some of the issues that are affecting our young people online. One key theme, though, which I'll come back to time and time again in this presentation, is about communication. It's about being able to have that conversation with your children. I know that's not always easy, particularly with teenagers, but if you can be open and honest and let them know that if they come to you with something that's troubling them, then they're more likely to do that, reach out for help, and you can find a solution and in the end keep them safe. We're going to look at social media, how things have changed, some of the things that are maybe there to catch children and indeed adults out on the internet, freebies or adverts that are offering supposed free money or sales of goods at a very, very low price. And actually, those things are more often than not scams. We're going to have a look at some other activities, such as the rise and increasing rise of TikTok. We'll cover a topic that a lot of parents contact us about, and that's parental control software. And ask you the question whether you want to use or not use that. We'll go through some of the pros and cons with that. We'll talk a little bit about gaming, and then Safer Internet Day 2021. Now, if you're watching this on Tuesday the 9th of February, Safer Internet Day is today. If you're watching this after Tuesday the 9th of February 2021, Safer Internet Day was on Tuesday the 9th of February 2021. So these are some of the topics we're going to cover tonight. It's very easy for us as adults to say, don't do this, don't do that. As a lot of you will know, though, as parents, telling a child not to do something is a pretty certain way to actually get them to do something or to try it out. So I've already mentioned communication. I'm sure those of you that have got children will recognise this image of those calm, harmonious chats where everybody's engaged and listening to each other. No, not just me then. Okay. I'm lying, actually. Often conversations in our household over the years have been more akin to Harry Enfield's Kevin and Perry sketches than they have to this picture you're seeing online at the moment. I'd like to start off with a video for you to watch. Now, I'm not going to put any videos into this presentation as such because just to save any technical problems, it would make the video really too long, and obviously it might risk the video getting pulled for copyright as well. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is pause that video. You will see a resource sheet somewhere around this video on the School Online Safety page, hopefully just below. And the first video on there is some facts and statistics about the use of the internet and the massive scale of this global network of millions of computers that we're all connected to. So if you'd like to pause this video, go away and watch that video, and then come back, press play again, and we'll carry on. So after the last video, let's bring it a little bit closer to home. Obviously, as many of us are aware, the internet's a fantastic platform which connects people together across the globe. While we're still part of our school, our Ashbourne, our Derbyshire and our UK communities, the rapid growth in communications has made it possible for us to be all part of this global community too. Our young people have grown up with technology and connectivity, not like people of my generation that had to go to a shop to buy our computer games on cassettes. We actually had to stand up to change the TV channel, or we had to plan our forays online to make sure that it was a time that nobody else wanted to use the telephone line because we needed to use that dial-up connection. The statistics you can see at the moment on screen are currently from a report issued by Ofcom, the communications regulator. They publish a report annually into the media use and attitudes of children and parents, and it certainly makes really interesting reading. I've pulled out a few snippets from this report for the talk today, but the link to the full report is available on your resources sheet too. So if we have a look at what's on screen at the moment, this is focusing on the 12 to 15 age group. 83% have their own smartphone in the 12 to 15-year-old age group, and you'll see in a second that rises really, really quickly as children get older. And the vast majority, by the time they get to 15, have got their own smartphone. 81% use their smartphone to go online. 3/4 of people who have a mobile phone are allowed to take it to bed with them. 88% watch TV on a TV set, while 46% use a tablet. We'll talk a little bit more about those statistics shortly. But the long and short of it is the amount of TV watched on TVs by young people is reducing. The trend is downwards, whereas the amount watched on mobile devices or phones or things like that is on the increase. So there are a lot of things. YouTube we'll talk about again in a little while, but 89% of 12 to 15-year-olds watch YouTube for an average of around 11 hours a week. A lot of people will get their learning and their facts from watching YouTube. And 4 out of 10 of our 12 to 15-year-olds actively watch YouTubers or vloggers, people who do video logs, influencers, to give them another name. So there's quite a few interesting statistics, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail. This is one of the main ones. This is the proportion of children that own their own smartphone versus the proportion that own their own tablet. And you'll see around the time that children are getting into upper primary and lower secondary, the amount of children with their own smartphone rises considerably. Whatever the reasons for that, who knows? But a lot of the time we hear from parents that it's the fact that they're going to secondary school, maybe travelling to secondary school a lot more independently as they get older, and therefore it's perfectly reasonable for them to have their own smartphone for safety reasons. As I said a minute ago, smartphones are fast becoming the go-to device for the majority of older children's media consumption. Even watching films, which I find really difficult to watch on a phone, young people will watch those films on a tiny 3-4 inch screen, which is really difficult for somebody of my age to do with my old eyes, but young people don't seem to have a problem with that at all. I mentioned YouTube a little while ago, and YouTube is used by 3/4 of 5 to 15-year-olds and a significant proportion of older children. It remains a significant player in all children's viewing. This is particularly true amongst older children, as I've already said. YouTube is also, though, used by half of children aged 3 to 4. So 50% of children aged 3 to 4 use YouTube regularly. And they're drawn to YouTube for a variety of reasons. It varies by age. Cartoons and animations continue to be popular for younger children, kind of 3 to 7, that age group, while watching funny videos, pranks and music videos are popular amongst older children. YouTube has increasingly been the go-to place to find out about hobbies and interests. In 2019, more than half of internet users aged 12 to 15 said they'd go to YouTube first to find accurate and true information about fun activities, which is a significant increase on the 38% that said that in 2018. They are also more likely than previous years to use YouTube to learn how to build, create or make things. That was 60% of children as opposed to 42% in 2018. In both scenarios, they're much more likely, though, to turn to YouTube than to use search engines or previously trusted sites such as the BBC. So YouTube and video is fast becoming children's go-to learning platform. Another key finding in the 2019 Media Live study reveals that while children remain keen on big-name YouTube stars, they're also following an increasing number of peer-to-peer or local influencers, known as micro or nano influencers, i.e. people with tens or hundreds of thousands of followers rather than millions. This shows that they value being able to follow the lives of people in their local area or those with similar interests to them, and perhaps gain more direct engagement with these influencers rather than their more established or celebrity counterparts. As many of us are aware, vloggers, i.e. video loggers or influencers, are paid to endorse products or services. Pleasingly, young people's awareness of this was shown by Ofcom to have risen, with 2/3 of 12 to 15-year-olds being aware of this, which was up from 47% in 2015. Hopefully this awareness will continue to increase in the years to come. So, what apps are our children using? WhatsApp has gained popularity over the past year and is now used by 62% of 12 to 15-year-olds. That's up from 43% in 2018. This means that for the first time it counts among Facebook, 69%, and Snapchat, 68%, and Instagram at 66% as one of the top social media platforms used by children. Similarly, no single site or app stands out above the rest when children were asked to name their main site or app in 2019. That's the one they use most often. Similar proportions of 12 to 15 cite Snapchat and Instagram as they do Facebook, which in previous years clearly came out on top. There's been a bit of a trend in recent years for young people's use of Facebook to decline. That's probably because people of my age are using Facebook a lot, and it's probably not a cool place for our children to hang out if they're hanging out with their mum or their dad or their gran on Facebook. Although fewer children say that WhatsApp is the app they use most, it's the only platform, WhatsApp is, to see a year-on-year increase. So WhatsApp is growing in popularity reasonably significantly. TikTok is one platform that's seen a large increase in users over lockdown. Well, this came too late to be included in Ofcom's latest report. They have produced some further research, though, listed on your resource sheet as Ofcom 2020, which does talk about the platform's popularity. There's been lots in the news about the app too. We'll take a few minutes in a little while to have a look at TikTok and what it is and what you can do on it. For now, though, let's look at the online landscape in terms of the apps that our children use. Now, there are a lot of apps that are pictured on the screen at the moment that are free. In fact, virtually all of the apps on the screen at the moment are free. There's chat apps, there's a lot of video on there, a lot of things that are commonly seen in the online landscape of sites that people use and apps that young people use. The common thing they've got between them, though, is this free. They don't cost anything to use. So the question, of course, we've got to ask ourselves is, why do these companies make these apps and give them away for nothing? Well, we need to understand as consumers that if we're getting something for free, it's probably us that are the product. So we agree to exchange our personal data. We agree to give a lot of these apps access to maybe our contacts, the information that's stored on our personal devices. We agree to let it know, in some cases, our location. And we agree to give this information. Very few people read the terms and conditions of apps when they download them. We just hit yes, we tick that box, and then we go on to download the app. Now, that's okay, but we need to be conscious if we're going to give away our personal information. Are we doing this blindly without really realizing it, or is it something that it's a conscious decision? A lot of young people are not aware about the information. Indeed, a lot of adults. It's not just young people, but they're not necessarily aware of the personal information that's being stored on them, and they're giving away about their habits, etc. Now we're going to pause again and just have a look at video resource 2, which is on your resource sheet. This video is a great watch as it charts the changing social media landscape between 1997 and 2020. Look particularly for the charge of Facebook from 2004 onwards and how much TikTok's grown. When we finish watching this video, we'll come back and we'll talk about TikTok a little bit more. So now's the time to pause this video and have a look at video resource 2 before resuming this presentation. In video resource 2, we saw TikTok making a late surge up the charts, and there's no doubt that its popularity has grown massively, particularly during lockdown. Ofcom have produced some further research listed on your resource sheet as Ofcom 2020, which does talk about the platform's popularity. There's been lots in the news about the app too, so let's take a few minutes to look at TikTok and what it does. So, TikTok is basically a video sharing platform. It used to be known as musical.ly. Its origins are in lip syncing videos, and it's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance. It hosts a stream of short form videos, mostly around 15 seconds, which have been made and shared by users on the platform. Dancing or lip syncing videos continue to be quite popular on the platform, in which basically users record themselves miming along to a pre-recorded soundtrack. Increasingly though, it's being used for lots of other things like comedy and short clips on a whole variety of topics. So, like other social media platforms, users can like or comment on videos posted by others. There are challenges on there that invite users to post content according to a particular theme, such as a dance or a song. And virtual items like TikTok coin gifts can be purchased with real money. These can be gifts that are given to other users to show appreciation for their content. As with YouTube, a number of people on TikTok have made quite a lot of money and become quite famous, because if you've got upwards of 50 million followers, you can monetize a lot of your content. So you can have paid for advertisements, and there was actually a clampdown by the advertising regulator on paid for advertisements that were not obvious that they were being paid for, and now people have to declare a lot more about the fact that they are actually being paid to advertise, if indeed that's what they're doing. So there are a number of stars of TikTok who can make it quite big. Like anything though, it's a very, very tiny proportion of all the users that actually go on to this level of success. If you haven't had enough of the TikToks on the last couple of slides, there's a link on your resource sheet to where you can watch more. I've linked to a video that's got a lot more TikToks on there for you if those little snippets weren't enough for you. So, like all social media platforms though, TikTok hits the headlines from time to time, often because of challenges that are reported to cause danger for young people. That's not unique to TikTok though, I'm not singling it out, and we often see these being reported on other social media platforms too. Often they're challenges that the media reports are harmful to young people, and they may include reports of self-harm or even ultimately suicide. It's important to remember when we're reading these stories that the media often sensationalise things. That's how they sell their news and make money. So if you see reports about the dangers of sites or apps online, please think very carefully about whether to share them on your personal social media pages. Often these stories are shared by worried parents with the best of intentions, but sharing them gives them traction, gives them credibility, and it increases the number of people that see them. This might also prompt people who haven't heard of a particular danger to go and find out about them, thereby putting them in danger when they otherwise wouldn't have been. So if you do see something concerning online, whether that's a young person or a parent, what do? There's a number of things you can do. The first thing is to stop. Okay, if you see something that bothers you, students need to stop what they're doing, turn off the screen, shut down the device. Take a moment just to breathe, stay calm, try not to get too upset. Think about not necessarily the content, but remind yourself that if you're in your own home, you're probably not in immediate danger. You are going to be safe. And then perhaps most importantly, and we're coming back to this theme that I've mentioned a few times already today about communication, Find a trusted adult to talk to about what they've seen and how they feel. And hopefully, as parents, if one of your children comes to you to have that sort of conversation with you, you need to be open to that and you will listen to them, even if it's a subject that you don't know too much about. So this last point about talking and communicating is absolutely critical. We often find that parents want technological solutions to online safety issues. There are products available such as monitoring apps, but in all honesty, these cost and the value is questionable. We'll look at those in just a second. There are things that you can do if you choose to go down that route, such as switching off the internet, but there are ways around these, and particularly older children are quite adept at finding their way around them. It doesn't replace communication, even if you do decide to provide some sort of technological solution. So, one of the things, as I say, we get asked about quite a lot in school is parental control software. Now, straight away, parental control software is basically software or apps that sit on your family devices. They can block any inappropriate sites. They can set limit on screen time on devices as a whole or on individual games or apps. They can monitor calls and texts and even show you the location of the devices in real time. So you've kind of got a bit of a tracker for your children when they're out and about. Now, there are dozens of these apps on the market, and I'm certainly not going to recommend one, and I'm certainly not going to even recommend that you get one. But if you do decide to install them, though, please understand that technology alone cannot keep your kids safe. While these sorts of services may have a place, they don't replace the fundamentals that I've already mentioned today of communicating with your child and setting ground rules on those devices to keep them safe. Screen time is one thing that also concerns people, but it's also important in terms of screen time to talk to your children about what it is they're doing, understand what they're doing when they're actually on the devices, whether that's their phones, their PCs, their laptops, whatever it is that they're using. So ask them, talk to them, find out what they're doing. Okay? If somebody spends hours a day searching the internet and they're looking for information to either do their schoolwork or to learn a new hobby or to learn a skill, fine. It might be that one child does that, though, while another child may spend less time on the internet, but they may spend that time talking to people they don't know on a live streaming or a video app, which is obviously a lot more concerning than somebody spending time to research their hobbies and interests. So again, communication and talking to your children is really, really important. Now, these are some suggested ground rules that you could utilise. Obviously, in your household, you're in charge. And I would also point out that if you buy a phone for your child, that phone belongs to you. So that you might want to apply some ground rules to that when you first give it to them. So, for example, you might decide to make the rule that phones are to be used or kept in family rooms and not taken upstairs into bedrooms, for example. I know with my children, that's one thing that I've always said I would do differently again if I was having my time again. I would not allow phones to go upstairs into the bedroom so they could be used unsupervised at night. You can make your phone so downloads have to be approved by parents rather than just automatically being approved by the user of the phone. So it may be that things that need to be paid for are being downloaded. If a credit card or your credit card is linked to an account, that's particularly important. But if you can, again, have that conversation with your children, if your children come to you and say, I'm thinking of downloading this app, this is the reason, and you can have a conversation about it, then that, again, is much more likely to keep your children safe. As I say, phones belong to parents, not children. And what I mean by that is quite often parents are more than happy to pay £40, £50 a month for a contract, but then not allow, or children seemingly don't allow parents to look at the device. Now, it may be that you never need to examine your child's device, but having the right or setting the expectation that you reserve the right to look at your child's phone if you suspect there's a problem is quite a really strong ground rule to have. Remember, if you pay the contract, those phones belong to you. So it's not a private device that children shouldn't ever show anybody. Okay, and looking at what's on the phone can stimulate that discussion. It's not snooping, it's not prying, it's basically parenting and keeping your children safe. As I say, reserve the right to look at the content of your child's phone. It may be that you never need to, but if you have established that ground rule to start with, children are aware that that's something that could happen if necessary. And also expecting children to behave as well online, if not better, than they do in the real world. Okay, manners, etiquette, kindness, politeness still matters in the online world. There have been a number of assemblies at school recently about being kind to others and respecting others and treating people how you want to be treated. And it's really, really important that people don't sit behind a screen and think they can get away with saying whatever they like about anybody. You might have seen stories in the press recently about various high-profile footballers being abused on social media, racist behaviour, etc. Because the anonymity of the online world can give some people the power to not behave as they would do in real life. So expecting children and discussing their online behaviour with them, talking about what you expect and how you expect them to behave is really, really important. The final point I make on this is about modelling the healthy device use. Quite often, if parents are overdoing the phone use, if parents are sitting around the dinner table using their phone rather than engaging in a conversation with the family, how can we expect children not to do that? So think about your own phone use. Think about when and where you use your phone. Are you addicted to your smartphone even? Because plenty of people, it's not just young people, plenty of people that are older are addicted to their smartphone too. Can you go an hour without checking your phone? Do you jump whenever your smartwatch buzzes or you get a notification on your phone? So think about the example that you're setting for your children. The next section I want to talk about is online gaming. So online gaming is still pretty big in the UK. Online gaming is played by the vast majority of children. And with this increase in connectivity, this internet technology, often it's inextricably linked with children's social life, their social relationships. They'll go on a game, and while they're playing a game, they will chat to their friends that they're playing a game with. It's part of a social life to them. It's not just playing FIFA or playing Call of Duty or whatever other games they're playing. It's about social relationships. And you might have a child who disappears up into their bedroom to jump on the console as soon as they get in from school. And often they're playing games with the people that they've just been at school for the whole day with, assuming we're not on lockdown, of course, anymore. But we need to understand that for young people, that gaming and social relationships are really, really closely linked. Now, there are a number of risks associated with gaming. There's also some positives as well. It's not all negative. So the content of games can be a risk to young people. We'll talk a little bit more about age ratings and things like that in just a second. But often games can have sex, drugs, violence, any behaviour from the real world can appear in certain video games. There can be contact, because I've already mentioned they play games with their friends, but often they also sometimes play games with people that they don't know or people that they only know in the online world. So there can be dangers associated with that too. Unfortunately, people that have got a deviant interest in children tend to go towards where they know children are going to be in that online space. So it's really important that we're aware of that. It can cause addiction, addictive behaviour, people behaving as if it is an addiction, and it is to a certain extent for a lot of people an addiction. We know of people that stay up through the night to play games with people in different time zones, and it's probably no wonder that when they come to school the following day, they're a little bit worse for wear, tired, and not really ready to learn. Mental health can be issues surrounding mental health in that the stresses and the strains. For example, if you're playing a football manager game, there are some studies that say that the people that manage football teams in computer games do experience similar levels of stress as managers would do in the real world. They can cause mental health problems, but as I've already mentioned, the social relationships are often inextricably linked, so they can have a positive effect too. That also links to their social development. Some people that are too shy to chat in the offline world will come out of their shell a little bit more online. And then some more positive things. Some computer games are linked to improvements in academic achievement. It sharpens the brain. Reflexes and reactions increase a lot more. So there are a lot more positive gains that also, as well as negatives to computer games. You don't have to be, as I've already said, a computer game expert to talk to your children about computer games. Just having an interest in it and having that conversation with them is really, really important and will go a long way to keeping them safe. You might, depending on the sort of person your child is, be able to play with them and get them to teach you, because one of the things that we know young people love is absolutely thrashing an adult at whatever it is they're playing. So don't be afraid to have that conversation, even if you're not an expert in that area. One thing I do want to make you aware of is the PEGI site, peggy.info. And computer games have an age rating in exactly the same way that films do. So you've got the website listed in your resource pack. Maybe I'll see it on screen here as well. It's peggy.info. PEGI stands for Pan-European Game Information. And not only does it provide age ratings, but it also provides a guide to the content of a particular game as well. We often find that children have accessed games that have a much higher rating than their actual age, with parents often unaware of the rating system. Most people wouldn't dream of showing their child an 18 certificate movie, but many children play 18 rated games without their parents being aware of it. They're often accessed when played by older siblings and they happen to walk into the room, or sometimes it's given to them thinking that there's not much harm that can be done. But if we look at titles, for example, such as Grand Theft Auto, if you look at the bottom left there, we can see it's rated 18. And we can also see that there are some clues on there as to content of the game. So some of the Grand Theft Auto titles pretty much have a full house of some of the things that can be found. So violence, bad language, sex, drugs, there's all sorts that can be found in games such as this. Now, we've heard before of people saying that, Grand Theft Auto is just a driving game. But if you go into it in a little bit more detail, you'll find it's certainly a lot more than a driving game. There is a link on your resource sheet entitled GTA 5 Shocking Moments. Please be aware, though, if you do decide to view it, that the video does contain some adult themes, but it does give you a flavour of the sort of things that you can do in the game, and think about whether you want your child accessing that sort of title. The other thing that's hit the headlines recently has been loot boxes. There's been various campaigns in the media to get loot boxes classified as gambling or reclassified as gambling. They've long been controversial in games. They essentially mean that players get a randomised chance to get a reward when open. So the reward they get could be an item to use in a game, such as weapons or skins, which is costumes to you and me. To further complicate matters, though, boxes can often be bought for real money. So you buy a box for real money, you'd open it, and you have a random chance to get a weapon or a costume that you could then use in the game. Obviously, these can cause issues for young people and their parents. As a first port of call, be careful about linking your credit card details to a child's account. And as I've already mentioned earlier, make sure that each purchase needs to be authorised. By the way, please don't think that online gaming is just an issue for those of you with boys. The Ofcom survey that I referred to at the start of this presentation found that 56% of girls aged 12 to 15 also play online games, although 87% of boys of the same age group do play them. So there are quite a substantial amount of girls that play video games. It's not predominantly a boys thing. So, moving on to talk about Safer Internet Day. As I say, if you're watching this on Tuesday the 9th of February, it is today. So happy Safer Internet Day. If it's not, happy Safer Internet Day for whenever the 9th of February was. This year in the UK, Safer Internet Day explores the issue of reliability online and looking at whether we can trust the information that we see online. So, this question of reliability. The campaign focuses on knowing what to trust and supporting young people to question, challenge and change the online world. The internet has an amazing range of information and opportunities online, and it can help us see the world from lots of different points of view. There are a lot of positives and negatives, so I'll start by just talking about a few of the positives. Many people, children and adults, will use the internet to find out information. While we're all working from home, we're online for a lot of the day. You could get information from the TV, the radio, from the newspapers, but I'm guessing most of us will rely on internet sources to find things out, complete schoolwork or whatever it is that we're doing. There's lots of positives rather than finding information online. You can find pretty much anything about anything online, whether that's the latest news to the cost of a new top or a new recipe. The speed and convenience of online information is a massive positive. You know, when I was the same age as some of your children, if I wanted to find out what was on at the cinema, we had to buy a local newspaper on a Thursday, which was the day the cinema listings were printed. Nowadays, when the cinemas are open, you can get that information in seconds at any time of the day or night, straight to your palm of your hand, literally, with smartphones. There's so much choice on the internet. You could read up on a topic, or you might prefer to watch videos on YouTube or find an influencer that posts about the subject that you're interested in. There's an amazing range of places you can go to find out information. And also, we can all publish information online. There's no need to wait for reporters to write stories. We can all do that from our phones, our tablets, or our computers. Now, while it's really important that we remember the great things about being online, we also need to be aware that there are things online that we can't trust, and this can have an impact on our lives and our emotions. Years ago, things that were online to trick us were pretty obvious. Right back when the internet and widespread use of the internet was in its infancy, there were various email scams, and hopefully nobody nowadays would be taken in by an email from a Nigerian prince offering to send you millions of dollars if you sent them your bank details and a small amount of money first. But if we think back to when widespread use of the internet did start, some people were taken in by this because they were used to trusting the information that they read, and they weren't used to people using it for nefarious means. Nowadays, people are a lot more savvier, and they might try and trick you or make it less obvious at some of the ways they try and get your personal information. It's maybe a little bit more subtle. You often see quizzes like this popping up on social media, whether it's to find your IQ, find out who's followed and unfollowed you, or even to find out what type of unicorn you are. All of these have one thing in common, and the thing that they have in common is that they require you to give away some sort of personal information, or they require you to give them permission to access your Facebook account, for example, which is where a lot of these things can be seen. From that point, they can gather and access your personal data. If you decide you want to give away your personal data to find out what type of unicorn you are, then fine. But think very carefully why anybody would want to produce content like this and what their goals might be. Here's another one that you see on social media from time to time. Everyone who shares this link will get a £50 voucher from Tesco's. I think this particular advert was on Facebook. Now, Tesco's might be a very generous company, but are they really going to give 50 quid to everybody that shares that link? It costs them an absolute fortune. Look at the URL too, that's the web address, 3 lines up from the bottom of the advert. A quick Google will tell you that's not the official Tesco website, although you probably could guess that without looking it up. Look at the persuasive language there that says today only in capital letters. It's making people think they have to act now, otherwise they're going to miss out. So many other things we're surrounded by online that we need to be careful of. That could be people pretending to be things they're not, or it could be providing sensational headlines in an effort to get you to click on the links and go to their pages to make them more popular. That's called clickbait, and we offer a fantastical headline to get people to click through to another page. So we need to be careful, and we need to think about some of the things that we see out there and think about the motives. So what can you do to keep yourself that little bit more safer online? The first thing is to question the source. Consider where the information you see has come from. Who's published it and why was it published? Can you confirm the information somewhere else? The more sources that say the same thing and the more reliable those sources are, the more likely it is that the information can be trusted. Ask yourself if it's fact or opinion. Compare what you see to what you already know about a topic. Do you know enough to know whether to trust it or not? Be aware that a lot of what we see online is actually other people's opinions, and there could be another side to the argument. Ask what the background of the person providing the information is. Are they likely to give you a balanced argument, or are they likely to be biased? Next, ask if it's too good to be true. There's an old saying that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Think about the reasons you see things online. For example, if a celebrity is promoting a product, it's likely they're being paid to do so. Understanding the motive behind these things online can really help you decide what or who to trust. Next, talk it through. Discuss, research and evaluate online information with people you trust. Talk to your friends for a second opinion. It can be really useful to share your knowledge and talk it through. One of your friends might have already taken time to research it or have some useful experience in the area. Ask them what they think, or consider doing some research together to find out whether something is trustworthy. It can be really hard to know what to do about false or misleading content online. But if you see something misleading or something that upsets or causes concern to you, then talking it through with somebody who supports you can help you feel less alone. This applies to children and to adults equally. Even if you don't know all of the answers, you can take steps to find out together or report harmful or misleading content to the site you saw it on. So overall, it can be very difficult sometimes to know what's true and what isn't. Don't assume that everything you see online is true, but don't assume it's not either. Asking questions and being inquisitive about what you see is good, and it can help keep you safe when you're online. Think very, very carefully about what you see and read. So, as a parent, what can we do to help our young people? Well, there are a number of things. The first thing you can do, and I've mentioned this 3 or 4 times already, is about this open dialogue. If you're the sort of person that's going to rant and rage when your young person comes to you with a problem, that's not really going to encourage them to come to you next time you have a problem. So however difficult it may be, being calm, being open to conversations will help keep your child safe because they'll know they can come to you. Helping them to use technology safely and positively, doing things with them, sitting with them and going through certain things, however much it might be a bit cringy for them at the start, working through things together, examining websites together, asking them some of the questions that we've talked about this evening. And also being a digital role model yourself is really important. I mentioned that earlier on about if you're not acting responsibly with your mobile phone, how can we expect our young people to be? So modelling the behaviour that you want to see. It's not all about dangers though, waving your finger say you mustn't do that. Think about the positives too. There are a lot of positives about the online world. It really opens up the whole globe for young people. If you need to, think before reacting. As I say, don't go off at the deep end. Don't start ranting and raving and banning things without a careful thought, because that you need to encourage the young people in your care to come to you. It may be that we think a particular use of the internet by a young person is silly or a bit stupid, but that doesn't mean it's not to them. We need to understand that young people use the internet in different ways that we as adults do. Culture of openness is really, really important for reasons that I've already mentioned. It can be really difficult having conversations with teenagers. I know that. I've been there. As I say, I've got 2 teenage daughters, or getting to the top end of their teens now, and it is really difficult, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Keep it going, however hard it is sometimes, and I fully appreciate it's hard to have discussions with teenagers. So try and have this open dialogue in your home where you talk about things openly, whether that's around the dinner table or wherever it happens to be in your house. Be interested, ask questions, listen to what they think, make them feel valued, young people. Their opinions are just as valid as ours. As I've said before, you don't have to be an expert in this field to have conversations about things. You just need to be willing to listen. So let's go a little bit further. We're going to look, just before we finish, at some of the help, the support and the further resources that are out there to help you. All of the things I'm going to just talk about in the next 5 minutes or so, you've got links to on the resource list, so you can go and have a look and browse through things in your own time. The first thing I want to talk about is Safer Internet Day. I've mentioned this already, but there are lots of great resources on the Safer Internet Day website. You'll see at the bottom left there is a section dedicated to parents or carers. So there are some great resources there aimed specifically at you guys, whether you want to find out something about a particular topic or whether you want to start one of those difficult conversations with your children. Internet Matters is also a really, really good site. There's lots of information and research on there, plenty of information for parents and for carers, plenty of sort of fact sheets and things like that for young people and parents to do and to use together. So internetmatters.org is another recommended website. Also, the NSPCC does some fantastic work around online safety. They provide a lot of research, resources, reports, and online knowledge bases into keeping children safe. So the NSPCC is also worth looking up and having a browse of. Childline 0800 1111 is a contact line for young people to contact if they have any worries or concerns. You'll see a button like this on a number of websites. That's the CEOP Internet Safety button. That should be used to report suspected cases of grooming, sexual exploitation or trafficking of children. Use that button, click on it, make a report to CEOP, who will follow that up and investigate that. Main place to start if you have any problems on social media is the site itself. So all of the sites have help pages and safety pages where you can find out about the site, what to do to report things if things go wrong, and you normally have to report things direct to the site concerned in the first instance before it gets escalated. So that's really important that you do that. Again, at the bottom of your resource sheet, there are links to the parents' pages of all of the different social media sites, or the main ones. So feel free to use those as necessary. Parent Zone is also a really useful site, written with parents in mind, hence the name. So again, have a look at this site. There's a lot of interesting stuff on there. We've actually, on our online safety page at school, got the Parent Zone banner embedded at the top of the page. So that gives us a live feed of current online safety related material. So if you go to @Quegs on the top menu on the main school website, and then you click on online safety, you'll get to that page, and there is a lot of information on there too. That's all I'm going to go through today. I realise I've covered quite a lot of topics in a very short space of time. So my contact details are on the screen if you need to contact me, if you'd like any further help or advice about any online safety related matters. Feel free to use those contact details to contact me, and we can discuss anything related that you'd like to discuss. I appreciate you all taking the time to watch this video. I know it's not the shortest video, but I hope you found it particularly useful. If it's still the 9th of February 2021, wherever you are, happy Safer Internet Day, and thank you for watching.